The C-SPAN networks bring you long-form public affairs programming from the nation's capital and are a public service of your television provider. C-SPAN, created by cable.
How much of the suffering of your husband's dementia have you written about?
I haven't written about it at all. He was diagnosed a while ago, but it became obvious that that he had a serious problem about 2 years ago, so I began to tell people. I am writing a memoir now for Harper One, and I will write about it a lot in that.
How has that impacted you? And does he know you?
He does know who I am, yes. We actually have called in hospice care this week. And, you know, it's interesting because I thought, oh, well, this is going to be not so hard because Ben is going to be, you know, he'll just gradually lose his memory and he'll ask me to repeat things and then, you know, it'll just be, but it's been the most horrible experience I've ever had up until recently, and he's still at home. I still have him sleeping in the bed with me, and I will until the end. But a certain peace has come over me, and a sort of feeling of serenity because what I thought was going to be horrible, the caretaking part of it, has really become something almost sacred about it, and that's not drivel. I didn't expect that. I just expected I would be having a nervous breakdown and it would be too horrible. But I don't think we have ever been as loving with each other as we are now. And you know, we spend a lot of time together and we hold hands, and he knows me and he loves having me there. And it's just extremely rewarding to be able to be there for him now, to try to make him happy and to give him as much love as I can until he dies.
93 years old? 93.
He was 93 in August, yeah.
Here's a clip when you and Ben were here in 1993. Mm-hmm. Where did you two meet, and when did you get married?
We met at the Washington Post. Sally came looking for a job, and she went first to be a secretary to Phil Jalin, who was then editor of the editorial page. And I told Jalin that he'd get in trouble if he hired her, and then later on I hired her.
So he didn't.
So he didn't, and I covered Sally I hired Sally to write for the style section, and we became friends after she left the Post. She called me Mr. Bradlee the day she left the Post to go to work for CBS. When we hooked up that year, '73, and
20 years ago this June.
Which makes it about how many years?
41 years we've been together.
41 years.
Yes, and we'll be celebrating our 36th wedding anniversary this October.
When the two of you are going through this period now, what do you both think are were the best moments of your professional life?
Well, obviously, you know, for Ben, Watergate was nothing can compare to that. It was a very stressful time for him, and we got together in the middle of Watergate. And so that was, in fact, that I left the paper because I was in love with Ben, and I knew that there was no way that I could get involved with him while he was going through this, because he was being watched. I mean, the Nixon people had people following him around, and Woodward and Bernstein, and that it would destroy his credibility as a journalist. And so I quit. I took the job at CBS, which I did not want to do, and I didn't want to move to New York. I had a boyfriend in New York, somebody I cared about very much, but by that time I was in love with Ben. But I realized that I had no choice, and so I did quit. And after I quit and moved to New York, I told him that I was in love with him, and we ended up together. And then he immediately left his wife, and their marriage, they had been estranged for several years, and so then it was okay. But there was just too much at stake for us to be together while he was going through Watergate and still married.
So given the fact that you got such a strong reaction out of your column on suffering, what would you tell people about dementia that might help them deal with it?
You know, Sandra Day O'Connor's husband, John, had Alzheimer's, and she actually ended up putting him in a nursing home in Arizona. And you know, everybody has his or her own way of dealing with this, but Sandra was a great friend of my parents, and about a year ago I saw her at a reception, and I said, I want to talk to you, I just want to ask you about this. And we went off in the other room, and she put her hands on my shoulders, and her eyes sort of teared up, and she said, I just want you to know this is really horrible. It's really, really horrible. It's terrible. There's nothing good about it. And I think, what I think is that people need to be realistic about what it is. The first thing you do is to hide it. That's what everybody does. That's what I did. I hid it for years. Oh, Ben's just forgetting his glasses and his keys, you know. And it wasn't until he was speaking in front of a group, he was doing a conversation with John Meacham at this group, in front of a group of CEOs in New York. And he'd had a sort of a blackout the day before. And I said to him that morning, are you okay? Do you think you want to do this? Because we can always cancel it. No, I'm fine. And he got up on the stage with Meacham, and he couldn't answer a question. He didn't know when he'd been in the war. He didn't know when he'd gone to the post. He didn't know when he was. And I was sitting there just dying. I just had a knot in my stomach. And at one point, he just looked absolutely panicked, and he turned to me and he said, Sally, help me out. And I just died.
Did you know he was having trouble with memory then?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, you did?
Oh, yeah. No. But I mean, up until that time, he'd been okay. But this blackout really sort of took some of the cognitive, it took its toll on him cognitively. And so it was after that that you could see that he was in a decline. I started telling people because I just couldn't hide it anymore. Because, you know, once you say the A word, everybody's attitude changes toward you. Now, I have to say that our friends have been absolutely extraordinary. And people continued to invite us out to dinner and continued to come to our house for dinner. And I have tried to keep Ben as engaged as possible, because the more he's engaged, the slower it goes. And so he's been part of a men's group, which has been fantastic, 12 guys with Alzheimer's or dementia, where he goes 3 days a week. He had to stop last week. They asked him not to come back. And that's been fabulous. And then I've had people over for dinner 2 or 3 nights a week. And even though he can't participate, he loves being around people. That's all finished. I mean, in the last 6 weeks, he's just had such a decline that he can't participate at all anymore. But you know, I had a birthday party for him in August, and he was able to come downstairs and blow out the candles on the birthday cake. And you know, friends. My son lives in the house right next door, so he comes over, and I moved my office downstairs next to the library so I could be close to him. And so there's been a sort of constant stirring of people coming in and visiting and seeing him. And he was going to the office once a week to have lunch with the guys. And I had a running tab at the Madison so they could all take him over there. And they would talk about the good old days in journalism. And people have just been incredible. They've been so wonderful to Ben and about Ben and to me. And I think that has really kept him going, all of the activity. And so And I also think that for people who are to try to keep active, and I think a lot of people just sort of shut down their whole lives. Somebody said to me, someone who was close to Nancy Reagan said that, she just basically shut her whole life down and did nothing but take care of Ronnie. I'm not doing that. I work full time, and I go out with friends for dinner at night. And I have to keep my life going. I try to get as much sleep as I can, although it's difficult because Ben is up a lot at night. But getting enough sleep is absolutely essential, and eating well and exercising. And you can't take care of it. It's like putting the mask on your face in the airplane before you put it on someone else. You've got to be healthy in order to take care of somebody else. And I find if I get too tired, I begin to get weepy and just not feeling like I can handle it. But I do think that people need to keep on with their lives, have people come over and sit, have a cup of coffee. You don't have to have a dinner party, but just come over and get a couple of people to come and just have coffee or tea or a drink or something. But just don't shut your life down. I think that's really the problem that so many people have. It's really hard. Nobody should ever believe that it's not easy.
Is he aware of what's going on?
He's, yeah, he knows. Well, I tease him. I say, in my next life, I'm going to be Ben Bradlee. Not just for this, but for other reasons, too. Ben has never been depressed a day in his life, and I've been with him for 41 years, and I've never seen him depressed. And he's just very happy, and he's taken care of. He's got people fluttering around him every minute. He is so well taken care of, and he's really happy, and he likes to be fussed over. So he's very aware of being taken care of and fussed over, and he appreciates that. And he sleeps now about 20 hours a day and doesn't eat much. But he's totally content.